Ladies and gentlemen, you're listening to the BBC. This BBC has nothing to do with Britain. This is the BBC, the big Buccaneer channel, as in the Oceanside Pirates and Buccaneer Beach. Welcome to the BBC, the Oceanside station.
Coming to you from a car-sized drone hovering over Buccaneer Beach, this is the Oceanside Station, created by born and raised O-Siders. It's the Big Buccaneer channel at www.OCEANSIDE.bbc. We are the Big Buccaneer channel, where we honor Oceanside's past while embracing its future. This is episode 102 for August 5th. 2026. And ladies and gentlemen, we have news. The RITE building on Coast Highway has been sold. KETTLE on Coast, after only a few months of being open, has closed down. We'll tell you what we know about that. The Taxpayers Association has chimed in about what they think about Oceanside's possible 1/2 cent sales tax increase. We've got some cannabis drama. That's right. Folks who are not in the loop to open a retail shop in Oceanside, they're starting to get reckless. We'll tell you about that. We've got violence in the harbor, and we've got part 3, our final of our 3-part interview with brand new Fire Chief JESS SPECHT. We've got our beach report. We've got our fish story. For our deep dive, we're going to tell you about how a 7-Eleven almost took over the spot where the Crown Heights Resource Center is now, formerly the Americanization School. For our happy hour, we're going to talk about pizza joints. And for our meter reader segment, we're going to tell you what we think about the problems with KOCT. Now, here's the news. The RITE building on Coast Highway is in escrow and it is being sold, but there is some intrigue, ladies and gentlemen. There has been reports that the Goodwill Industries has in fact purchased many of these empty RITE stores and populated them with new Goodwill stores. Well, that didn't happen on Tamarack. Now, on Tamarack, the formerly Goodwill RITE thrifty store before that, it turned into a Ross Dress for Less. And I don't know, but putting a Ross Dress for Less on Tamarack and Carlsbad seems a little bit odd to me. They were looking at 99-cent store there next to Walmart on the corner of Mission and Horn, and they decided against it. I think they may have made a mistake by putting it on Tamarack, but nevertheless, that's what's happening with that RITE store. Now we're finding out that this RITE store here on Coast Highway has been sold. Lee and Associates, who was handling the sale, would not disclose who bought it, except to say it is not Goodwill who has bought the building. Now, I must tell you that everyone I've spoken to says dollars to donuts, or whatever that hack phrase is, that building will be torn down, and it will more than likely be torn down and be high-rise condos. We don't know for sure. We all want it to be something like, a Trader Joe's or a wine and beer boutique store kind of thing, Beverages and Bevmo or whatever. But I don't think it's going to happen, folks. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. We don't have any exact news yet, but all we know is the Rite Aid will not be Goodwill, and the site has been sold. After only being open for a few months, the cafe KETTLE on Coast that took over from the much-beloved Petite Madeleine bakery, restaurant, and coffee shop right there on the corner of Coast Highway and Pierview Way has closed. The phone for KETTLE on Coast has been disconnected, and a call to its sister restaurant, KETTLE on Grand in Escondido. The manager there said, "We have nothing to tell you. If you want to find out more, you can send us an email and we might respond." But it doesn't look good. But the building itself is owned by the city of Oceanside, and they've had a very happy relationship with Petite Madeleine Bakery for many years. And of course, that ended earlier this year when Christine, the owner, sold out to the KETTLE on Coast people. And people will remember that building used to house the original surf museum. That was where the surf museum was housed before it moved around the corner and down the street. And it's unclear what happens now to that building, which even before up until the early 60s, it was a Rexall drugstore with counter service and a malt shop, and that was active through the 60s. Some people complain that the KETTLE on Coast, its fare was maybe a little bit too exotic, maybe too expensive, and they deviated a little bit too far from the Petite Madeleine successful formula. Stay tuned for more on what's going to happen to KETTLE on Coast. As you probably know, the City Council of Oceanside has voted to put on an additional half-cent sales tax on top of the Measure X that we're already paying, and the Taxpayers Association for San Diego County has spoken up. And they gave their judgment on many of these judgments across the county. There were only a couple that they endorsed, and Oceanside's half-cent sales tax has been endorsed by the Taxpayers Association, and they rejected other such measures across the county. So that means I think Oceanside is doing something right. This Taxpayers Association also said the city has done very well over the 8 years that Measure X has been around, that the city has spent its money well. And now they're telling us that, doggone it, dadgum, this idea, this additional half cent is a good thing that they can endorse. So that's very interesting news. And it's also interesting that the Oceanside Firefighters Association, it's sort of the union for the firefighters, is going to get out and heartily endorse it. They're going to walk door to door. The Oceanside Police Officers Association, not so much, which is interesting to me because the police officers tend to benefit if this half-cent sales tax goes into effect. It could be used to build the headquarters for the police department that they definitely need. So that's a little interesting twist there. Now, the election for Districts 1 and 2 on the City Council, of course, it's happening in November. This Friday, that would be August the 7th, is the deadline to turn in your papers. And some have pulled papers but not returned them. So we're not going to report on the final who's made it made the cut to get on the ballot and who's not right now, because some of these people that pulled papers maybe just did it on a lark. So why waste our energy on people that don't even bother to qualify? So we're going to wait to tell you more next week when we know who did qualify to run, either against incumbent Eric Joyce in District 1 or incumbent Rick Robinson in District 2. However, there is news from the clerk's office that there have been a number of complaints saying that District 2 candidate Oscarin Ortega does not live in Oceanside. Now, what the clerk's office told them is, okay, you have to provide us proof of where Mr. Ortega does live. And at the time that we record this, none of these complainers have done so. So that's out there. And also Ricky James, who is also running for District 2, is claiming that Rick Robinson has violated the Levine law, which says you're not supposed to take money from a developer and then vote on that developer's project. Ricky is making a big point of that, and it's interesting to note that I think he is the only one who is bringing that up. And by the way, Ricky James is not to be confused repeating with Rick James.
She's a very kinky girl, the kind you don't take home to mother. She will never let your spirits down once you get her off the street. Oh, girl. She likes the boys in the band. She says that I'm her all-time favorite. When I make my move to her room, it's the right time. She's never hard to please. Ow.
In what may be a precursor to future litigation, at the City Council meeting tonight, August 5th, a applicant who didn't make the cut to qualify to get a cannabis dispensary license called the Artist Tree is coming before the City Council to appeal its denial. And the city staff is saying, we do not, City Council, urge that you grant them this appeal. They're urging denial of the appeal. We'll find out what happens. Of course, the next meeting, 2 weeks away on August 19th, is when the council decides what to do with the fact that 3 applicants, based on the merit process that the city set forth, that 3 applicants have tied for the 4th place. They've already decided that there are 3 for the top 3 spots, and the 4th spot is a 3-way tie. So we're going to find out what happens August 19th. And the Big Buccaneer channel predicts that probably all 3 will be granted a license. We'll find out for sure on August 19th. And also at tonight's meeting on August 5th, the vape store, which is sort of next to the Hobby Lobby there on College and 78, has been had its tobacco license yanked, and they are appealing to the City Council to say, please give it back to us. And of course, the city staff is recommending no tobacco for you. It's cruise night again on next Wednesday, August the 12th, and that's when the South O Brewing hosts its monthly classic car lowrider show. It's right there on the corner of Coast Boulevard and Moore Street from 5 to 9, the second Wednesday of every month, and it's a lot of fun. You do not want to miss it. And also, there was a shooting early on Tuesday morning, August the 4th, at the harbor, sort of in the area where the Sea Center is and the Lighthouse Restaurant, Joe's Crab Shack, in that area. The man who was shot was a 38-year-old man who will survive, and a 59-year-old David Graham was arrested in connection with that shooting. And we contacted the Alcoholic Beverage and Control Board last week to find out if, in fact, the Mar and Fuego bar and seafood broiler and Mexican restaurant is, in fact, going in to the space that formerly occupied the Masters restaurant in the 200 block of South Coast Highway. And the ABC has informed us that alcohol license is still in progress, and we can look forward to the Mar and Fuego taking over the Masters spot there in a couple of months. Oceanside Lifeguard Lieutenant Greg Trebby tells us that the massive surf and big heat has subsided somewhat, and that rescues were down last weekend, Saturday and Sunday. There were only about 61 rescues, which is about half as much as the weekend before. Water temperature at some point last week was 76 degrees, which Lieutenant Trebby tells us is not too far from the all-time high that he can remember of 78 degrees. Man, that is some warm ocean water. And Lieutenant Trebby says we were pelted for about 3 weeks with 4 to 6 foot breakers, and luckily the swell has died down for safety reasons at least. And currently the junior lifeguard program, which has been in operation for a couple of weeks, it ends this week, and it will resume right after Labor Day. The water temperature is 73 degrees off the coast of Oceanside, California.
I said fish, 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 fishing. Yes, I'm going fishing just to ease my mind. All right.
Danny from Ola Cappies, which is one of our Oceanside Harbor sports fishing six-pack boats, tells us that the fish out there are biting yellowtail, are available if you go kind of far out, and if you stick in close to the coast, you can get some yellowfin, which is not a tuna, but it's a jackfish. But he says it is good eating, but it's sort of in the shallow waters close to the beach. And he said he's been catching yellowtails 2, 3, or 4 a day, and that he did catch a 60-pound, he thinks, wahoo. And unfortunately, he said it broke away. Well, you know what? That happens when you're a sports fisher.
I take my pole and my jug down to the river. I'm gonna set up on the bank. Every time the fish start to nibble, I'm gonna take me another drink.
This is the Big Buccaneer channel, the BBC, the Oceanside station, and we're speaking with new Fire Chief Jess SPECHT for the city of Oceanside. And Chief, you know, I was very heartened to see both, I think, the fire department, but especially the police department step up and say the problem with e-bikes is getting out of hand. We need better ordinances, city council, and they listened and they passed it. I thought that was great. Are there any other laws? The fireworks is a good example that I think the fire department championed and the city council listened. That was much needed. Are there, and I would imagine going forward, if you see an issue, you're going to bring it forward yourself to the council about other ordinances that we may need to be looking at that we weren't previously engaged with. What are some of the areas you might be looking into?
I think for now, just off the top of my head, I know the e-bike ordinance has passed. I think e-bikes, we need to continue to kind of monitor. My medical services officer, Amy Marquez, she's the MSO, the nurse educator and whatnot for the department and frankly for the city. She just came into my office just the other day and mentioned that a very highly respected pediatric trauma surgeon has really come out and said the number of e-bike injuries for juveniles, in particular 12 and under, has just skyrocketed. And so he's leading a campaign to really start pressuring not only local municipalities, but the state to start putting some legislation on at the state level. So I think from the fire department perspective, we need to continue to kind of monitor and see what Oceanside's ordinance, kind of what impact that has. And if it's doing what we want it to do and cutting down on some of these traumatic injuries, that would be great. But if it's not, then maybe we might need to revisit, is it enough? Do we need to add something else? So I think that's something I think we really need to kind of just keep our eye on. Other than that, I don't have anything right off the top of my head in terms of ordinances. But
well, it's great that our city council will listen to you guys. And we hear often that sometimes our guys are deployed to other jurisdictions, sometimes far away. How do you decide who goes where and when? How does that work?
Yeah, so Oceanside, we are in. So the state breaks the state has the California Master Mutual Aid agreement. So every agency throughout the state of California is a part of this Master Mutual Aid agreement. And so what we do, we're part of an operational area. We're op area, and it's San Diego and Imperial County. And we have an op area coordinator who actually runs out of our Northcom dispatch. And so what we do is whenever the need from Northern California, LA, Orange, or all the way up to, the Oregon border, if they're having fires and they need resources, they put the request in through the mutual aid system, and we kind of do a tally of what we can offer, and we are part of that system. We have a couple of state-owned engines that we are obligated to send when the state calls for them, all reimbursable. But when it comes to sending our own agency vehicles and agency apparatus, it really is, it's a fine balance because we don't want to send so much out of county that we have our own fire risk and something, God forbid, happens in our own county and we're not prepared for it. So really it's kind of a day-by-day, incident-by-incident evaluation of what we have available for us versus what we're able to send. So it's a kind of a complex algorithm, so to speak, as to what and who we send.
We're speaking with Chief Jess Specht of the Oceanside Fire Department, and we've spoken on this show. Sometimes it seems like we're speaking to ourselves about the overtime issue. There's one member of the Oceanside Police Department who seems to every year be at the top or near the top of the overtime list, getting hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in overtime. Now, clearly there are times when you got to have overtime, and I get that. But it also seems to be the case that this guy is gaming the system and he gets away with it over and over and over again. So what happens is that the city council goes, oh, but we're saving more money by having overtime because we don't have to hire more people. And I get that from the city manager and from the city council. But at some point, I mean, you're where the rubber meets the road. I mean, I don't know. It seems like in some instances there's some city staff gaming the system as far as overtime. I know this is touchy, but you're the boss now. You're where the buck stops. And so I don't shy away from asking you. So what's up with the rampant overtime in some cases.
Yeah, so I would say that overtime is an absolute necessity in particular, and I can only speak to the fire department. So when it comes to the fire department, we absolutely have to have overtime because yes, the city manager's message of it's cheaper to pay overtime than to hire a full-time, fully benefited person. So even if we were fully staffed, had no vacancies, we would still have overtime because the fire department model works. If someone calls in sick or someone takes a pre-planned vacation, we have to fill that seat. We can't just say, hey, we have 3 people off today. We're just going to shut down an engine company, and South O is not going to get engine responses because we have 3 people who took the day off. So that's where your kind of day-to-day overtime comes from. Okay. And then when we have vacancies, which we're always, my goal would be to hire every single vacancy we have. That just hasn't been the reality. So vacancies also need to be filled with overtime as well. And then I think there's a unique perspective for overtime when it comes to the fire department in particular. Earlier, you had asked about us sending resources up to other parts of the state and part of the mutual aid system. Every time we send an engine company or a crew up the state to out of county, that is all fully reimbursable by either the state, if it's a state incident, or the feds, if it's on federal land. So yes, it's generating overtime, and the numbers can look eye-popping at times, but when it comes to the city budget, all those incidences are fully reimbursable, and then some, because we actually get a little bit of an admin fee for just the work that's required to process the paperwork. So I don't want to say we make money, but we get reimbursed more than it actually costs us.
Oh, wow.
So
that's a good deal.
Yeah.
All right. And so this is something I got under my craw for a while. The Marine Safety Unit, they're 7/24. They're on call any hour of the day, any day of the week,
Yep.
Christmas, whatever. And the city has had to put this crew of 3 up overnight, and they've been staying in 2 rooms at the Marina Suites.
Correct. Yep.
And it just blows my mind that the city never really cared to figure out that we need a permanent place. I mean, they talked about it, but nothing is happening. Now it finally seems to be being looked at. And one of the thoughts is that it'd be good to have a modular unit near that fisherman's pier there, right across the way from the harbor office there.
Yep.
I know you're just starting to be the chief,
Sure.
but does that, for instance, seem like a good way to go forward? To put that modular unit there, and I guess you have pilings, so it doesn't obstruct the sidewalk. But the city would save so much money annually by not putting these guys in the hotel room.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly that we need to do something on a more permanent basis for housing that crew in the evenings. We just had a meeting last week. The city we hired a consultant to kind of help us navigate. In particular, the Coastal Commission is going to be a big challenge for whatever we do because it falls within their purview. Some of the ideas, like you had mentioned, one of I think the leading idea is to put a modular building right there next to the ramp leading to our MSU boats and the rescue boats. I think that would be the most ideal space. However, part of the meeting is we wanted to make sure that we were exhausting all potential options, and really we're somewhat limited in options because the whole goal is to make sure that wherever they are located is within a very quick response to getting on that boat to respond. Currently, having them drive from the hotel is just adding to response times and is not ideal at all. So again, the leading proposal would be to put that modular building right there. But, there is some potential options of the parking lot behind the harbor office, which is currently leased by the Marine Center. Maybe we renegotiate a lease and find some room there. Again, all options are on the table moving forward. But again, we're going to have to deal with the Coastal Commission regardless of what we do. So, but yes, it's an absolute necessity, and it will be a budget savings over the long term.
Finally, it only took 3 years. All right. We're speaking with Chief Jess Specht of the Oceanside Fire Department, and the cute little saying goes that you look at a cop and well, he may be a little pudgy because of too many donuts, and you look at a firefighter, they're fit because they have so much downtime and they get to work out on the barbells. But that's not reality. You're telling me.
Yeah. I think if you were to calculate just the calls that the units run, we're probably busier than most people think. I mean, we have a metric called the unit hour utilization, and that is the time that a unit, engine, ambulance, whatever, is committed to a call, whether it's responding, on the call, returning back from a call for ambulances, transporting to a hospital. In our ambulances, some of their UHU, unit hour utilization, is upwards of 30 to 40% of the day. So we're talking 8 to 10 hours they are committed to a call. And then you figure in the evening, there's not much downtime in the evening. Yes, they're trying to get as much sleep as they can. But when we're not running calls, we still have state, local, federal mandated training. We have to make sure that all our paramedics receive the required continuing education units to maintain their paramedic licenses. We do a lot of training. We do a lot of public outreach. We do third grade, public education programs. So our day is pretty filled. And yes, we do carve out in the contract for the firefighters is some time to work out because it's absolutely critical for them to maintain, good physical fitness. But I would argue that there's not a lot of downtime, especially in our department, as busy as we are with what we have. So,
well, Chief Jess Specht, thank you very much for this last question here. And you just can't walk into a fire station and just knock on the door and say, "Hey, can you give me a tour?" But you're saying that you do give tours to the public. What can the public do if they would like to visit their local neighborhood fire station?
Yeah, so we love to welcome anyone in the public. I mean, the fire stations are owned by the residents of the city of Oceanside. Their taxes pay for those stations and apparatus and pay our salaries. So we always welcome citizens in the community to come by. We just ask that you call our fire administration or go onto the city's website and make an appointment because we're not always available to do just a drop-in station tour, but we always welcome people to schedule tours or, we love to have people come by and show them what we do and help educate the public as to what our day-to-day lives look like. Well,
Chief Jess Specht, thank you very much for coming to talk to us on the Big Buccaneer channel. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Really happy to be here, and I appreciate the opportunity.
All right. The Flying Pig has been called out by San Diego Magazine as the place that first put Oceanside on the map as a food destination. But do yourself a favor and do not forget that the Flying Pig Pub and Kitchen in downtown Oceanside has daily lunch specials built around their homemade pasta. Daily lunch pasta specials may include spaghetti or rigatoni or campagnelli, whatever pasta is made that day, drenched in bouillabaisse sauce. The Flying Pig Pub and Kitchen at 501 Mission with a magnificent homemade pasta lunch special from 11:30 to 4:30 weekdays. The Flying Pig is the place for freshly made pasta and weekday lunch specials. www.oceansidepig.com. And now, it's time to take a deep dive into Oceanside's deep, rich past. It's Deep Roots, Deep Dive. This is the BBC, the Big Buccaneer channel, where we honor Oceanside's past while embracing its future. And the most feel-good story about Oceanside for 2026 may, in fact, be the reopening and the rebirth of a rebuilt Crown Heights Resource Center that used to be the Americanization School. After a year and a half of work, a new foundation, new walls, new lights, new everything, new windows. The grand reopening will be Saturday, August 15th. There's a party planned from noon to 4. By all means, show up and celebrate this jewel in the crown of Crown Heights, which is reopening Saturday afternoon, August 15th. Now, it was built 1931 under the direction of architect Irving Gill, who, of course, was responsible for a lot of the City Hall buildings. And it was opened as the Americanization School, which is where they taught Spanish-speaking kids to learn English. Pete Magana, who is one of the heroes of that neighborhood, used to tell stories about how when he was a student there, he's now left us, he died a few years ago, but Pete Magana would say that when he attended there, they would hit him if he didn't speak English. So there are some memories of that happened. Nevertheless, the Americanization School is part of our history. In the 40s, it became the Division Street School, operated by the Oceanside Unified School District. But by the 90s, by the 80s and early 90s, the building was vacant, and Oceanside Unified School District was about to sell it to a developer who was going to tear it down and put a 7-Eleven there. But thanks to locals like Joan and Kevin Bachman, who care deeply about our heritage, a historian by the name of Wayne Donaldson, a city planner, Rita Baker, and the late Parks and Rec director, Dick Goodman, the city council, under the majority led by Melba Bishop, which also included Don Rodee and Nancy York, in 1992 secured a CDBG grant that allowed the city to buy the building, and it went under its first resuscitation, remodeling right after that, and it was reopened in 1994. And of course, this latest remodeling was much, much more extensive. We took a recent visit there last week, and it is impressive. And not only is the building itself impressive, but the city employees who were behind it and put their blood, sweat, and tears into it, and the gentleman, Adrian, who will be working there full time. What a thrill it is to see what they have done and what they're going to do with the Crown Heights Resource Center. This is a great story and a wonderful opportunity and a visionary step forward for Oceanside.
Delicious.
I like it too. Yes, I do like it.
Delicious.
It's time for Happy Hour, that time on the Big Buccaneer channel when we highlight an Oceanside eatery or night spot that features food or drink specials during happy hour or any time they choose. And this week we turn again to Odie's Pizza, which has a tremendously popular happy hour, and it's right there downtown on the corner of Mission and Cleveland. And they have a 7-day-a-week happy hour from 3 to 5 p.m., $2 off beer and $1 off wine. And that's 7 days a week from 3 to 5 p.m. Their lunch special is every day from 11 to 3. And for $10.99, you can get either 2 slices and a drink, or for $10.99, 1 slice, a salad, and a drink. Meanwhile, the best pizza deal in town may be at Papa John's, and there are 2 Papa John's, and one is on Oceanside Boulevard near I-5, right near CVS, and the other one is off of College, sort of near Ace Hardware in there. And their Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all day long pizza special is 1 large pizza with 3 toppings all day long for $8.99, 3 days a week from Papa John's. Not a bad deal. Now it's time for the Oceanside Meter Reader, the segment where we gift a local person, place, or phenomenon on its degree of wonderfulness or worthlessness with a rating from K Magnifique down to nuclear, dumpster, fire. And last week we broke the news that KOCT sent a letter to the city saying that it was dissolving its operations. And we think that the problem may have been more with KOCT itself than with any outside forces. You see, KOCT it's a nonprofit organization that sort of tries to pretend that it's a TV station. But the only problem is they rely only on tax money. Now, most of the tax money comes from the annual PEG money, which is a pass-through money they get from everybody who subscribes to cable. Now, 4 years ago, it was like $400,000. Now it's down to like $260,000 that they get. But the city also pays them separately to put on, to air these all of our council meetings and planning commission meetings. So the city pays them on top of this PEG money. They knew the PEG money was going down over the years. They never did anything about it. They ended up begging the council for handout money from the general fund, to which they got $249,000 over the last few years. All the years before that, over the 40 years before that, they never got a penny from the general fund. Now they do. And it seems that they never prepared for the inevitable that they had to pare down. And what's worse is I asked Carly Bruno Niles, who is the executive director, a few months ago, would you let somebody like me see, since you're a nonprofit, would you let me see your books? And Carly Bruno Niles, executive director of KOCT, said no. And here we have the executive director of a nonprofit not wanting to disclose how she spends her money. Where did the money go? Are you hiring your family? Are you spending extra amounts on top of your own salary for yourself? We don't know. We just think we should be told. She wouldn't tell us. That gets Carly Bruno Niles and her executive board of KOCT the second worst Oceanside meter reader ranking. It's a public embarrassment. It's a turd in the punch bowl. Why can't we see your books? It's this week's Civic Train Wreck.
Oh no.
That wraps it for episode 102. This is the Oceanside Station, the big Buccaneer channel at www.osidebbbc.com. We are all Oceanside all the time with a new show every Wednesday. This is the BBC, the big Buccaneer channel, and we'd like to hear from you at 442-452-2623 or via email if you'd like us to know something or have us send you a new episode link every week. We are at OCEANSIDE@gmail.com. Again, OCEANSIDEBBC@gmail.com. We'd like to give special thanks this week to Lifeguard Lieutenant Greg Trebby, to Mike Blessing, who was the city planner for many years, and when he left the employ of Oceanside, and of course he still lives here locally, still on the Oceanside Unified School District Board of Directors, school board, and when he left here, the city blessed him with a sort of the cement bench right in front of the old city hall. He's truly one of our treasures here in Oceanside. Thank you, Mike Blessing, and to Terry Johnson, who was the former mayor and 12 years on the city council. Both of those gentlemen helped me in reconstituting the deep dive segment with the Crown Heights and how that whole thing happened, how that whole thing went down. And also, again, special thanks to our audio producer, engineer, Vaughn Ramirez. And until next week, this is Ken Treadway saying thank you, Oceanside.